Elon Musk owns Twitter, and now Twitter is owning Elon Musk. His first few weeks of ownership have been interesting, and wouldn't you know it, when you light $44 billion on fire for the lulz, you're bound to run into some legal headaches. Now, things are changing so fast that by the time you watch this video, the platform could be gone, it could be borrowed by Mark Zuckerberg, it could be turned into an NFT, I guess, or doing business as usual, who knows. But here's a quick rundown of everything that Musk has accomplished so far. He fired half of Twitter's total workforce and then scrambled to hire some of them back. After stating that Twitter should be politically neutral, he endorsed the Republican Party before the midterms, a bet that quickly backfired. He announced a new rule requiring users engaged in parody to include parody in their bio, and then when that didn't work, to include it in their Twitter name, which is exactly the same thing that The Onion just demolished as being contradictory to the entire point of parody. He promised advertisers that Twitter would not become a free-for-all hellscape, and then loosened up on content moderation, resulting in a measurable increase in people being awful racist or homophobic, and leading to a whole bunch of advertisers leaving the platform, at least temporarily. He got rid of the blue check verification system and replaced it with an $8 a month subscription service that didn't verify user identity, allowing people to impersonate brands and celebrities. That's how we got a seemingly verified George W. Bush tweeting, "I miss killing Iraqis," and a seemingly verified Rudy Giuliani saying, "Nancy Pelosi and I do not agree on many things, but them things hangin', I'll tell you what." Now, all of this has been great fun to observe, but now that Twitter is a raging dumpster fire, Musk has to contend with some serious legal issues, including how he was forced to buy Twitter in the first place, the FTC gauntlet that is facing Twitter, and then there's the wrongful termination suits and possible bankruptcy. It's a real Sue's sue. Now, when we last visited Elon Musk and Twitter, Musk was arguing that Twitter had misled him about the number of bots on Twitter, and that its now former leadership had fired employees without his consent, so he was calling off the deal. At the time, I speculated that it would be tough for him to get out of that deal to buy the company. Take it from Devin from the past. Delaware courts have been known to order specific performance in just such a situation as this. Twitter sued Musk for a specific performance in the Delaware Chancery Court, i.e. they wanted to force him to purchase Twitter at the agreed upon price. The Chancery Court has jurisdiction to hear all matters related to equity, which means that it had the power to compel him to go through with the purchase. Musk wanted a discovery process that would take months, if not years, to complete, but in July, the court ruled that Musk and Twitter needed to be ready for trial by October. That's an insanely fast timeline for a major trial, but such is life in the Delaware Chancery Court. They do not mess around. Presumably feeling that he did not have enough time to make a decent case or just saw the writing on the wall, Musk went through with the purchase and bought the company at the original sales price of $44 billion on October 28th. So in the end, it was much ado about nothing. Now, Musk fans, what are they, Muscovites, I guess, rejoiced because he promised them that he would be a champion of free speech. Musk had assured us that Twitter is the new town square and everyone has a First Amendment right to more or less say whatever they want on the platform, though he did begin to backtrack almost immediately. As Musk said, "By free speech, I simply mean that which matches the law. I'm against censorship that goes far beyond the law." Though Musk's actions didn't match his words almost immediately. When Twitter users started making fun of him, he suspended their accounts. Kathy Griffin probably has an entire mug of billionaire tears by now. And sure, Musk has a legal right to be a delicate, sensitive boy. It just doesn't match his particular rhetoric. The First Amendment prohibits the United States government from censoring speech, but private companies or private individuals can censor speech if they want to. If Musk wants to shut down speech from progressives and liberals and promote speech from conservative voices, he has a right to do that, or vice versa. He can ban people who hurt his feelies. And he can turn Twitter into a hellscape of bullying and racism if he wants to do that. That much is obvious. However, that choice is not without consequences, and Musk got a lesson in the free market almost immediately. At least 50% of Twitter's advertisers have fled the platform since Musk took over, and just as Musk has a right to run Twitter the way that he wants, more or less, advertisers are free to not advertise on the platform. That's the free market at work there. Now, the issue here is that Musk claims to be a free speech absolutist. He apparently believes not just in free speech in the sense that the government can't censor people, but also consequence-free speech. And that's just not how things work. And we know this in particular because Elon Musk keeps firing Twitter employees who either make fun of Elon or say things that Elon doesn't agree with. Now, he can do that, subject to some limitations we'll talk about later, but we can also make fun of him for his free speech hypocrisy. Now, at the same time, Musk temporarily ditched a verification in favor of a pay-per-blue policy, and one of the consequences from that was that an Eli Lilly impersonator promised to make insulin free. And some have speculated this might have cost the company around $15 billion in market share, though I'm skeptical of the causation there. But still, this deters companies from even wanting to engage on Twitter, let alone pay the company to run advertisements. Now, Musk says he's going to create a content moderation council to review suspended accounts, but he also has fired the entire Twitter safety and security team, so he'll have to build that council from scratch. Now, Musk also fired 80% of Twitter's contractors around the world, which maintain the core infrastructure services that keep the site up and running. That's probably not important. And as much as Musk would like to believe that the advertiser problem is caused by activist woke brands, it might have just as much to do with instability and potentially a deteriorating site experience, which might only get worse. And a day after the mass termination, Musk confirmed the dumpster fire, tweeting, "By the way, I'd like to apologize for Twitter being super slow in many countries. App is doing more than 1,000 poorly batched RPCs just to render a home timeline." And independent reports also state that Twitter's codebase suffers from sinusoidal depleneration, which could be fixed with the proper flux capacitors and proton packs. Now, it's been fun watching Elon just tweet through all of this, but in all the excitement, he seems to have overlooked a big legal issue, which is Twitter's consent decree with the Federal Trade Commission. Twitter's chief privacy officer, chief compliance officer, and chief information security officer abruptly quit shortly after Elon rolled out new product features without the security reviews that the FTC required in its decree with the company. The employees went on Slack and warned their colleagues that Musk's new plans are extremely dangerous for our users. Also, given the FTC can and will fine Twitter billions of dollars pursuant to the FTC consent order, extremely detrimental to Twitter's longevity as a platform. And the employees then posted a link to Whistleblower Aid, a nonprofit law firm that helps employees report corporate or government wrongdoing. Now, what caused Musk's privacy and security officers to issue such a dire warning? Well, it started with a consent decree and the government agency responsible for consumer protection, the Federal Trade Commission. It all goes back to 2009 when Twitter's lax security processes allowed hackers to obtain unauthorized administrative control of Twitter, including both access to non-public user information and private tweets. Hackers were also able to send out phony tweets from any account. In 2010, the FTC sued Twitter for misleading consumers about the privacy of their personal information and for failing to protect user phone numbers. In 2011, Twitter entered into a consent decree with the FTC. A consent decree is an agreement that settles a dispute without the defendant admitting guilt or liability. The consent decree has to be approved by a judge, making it enforceable by the court. So the Twitter consent decree barred the company from making misleading statements about the extent to which it protects the security, privacy, and confidentiality of non-public consumer information. And under the terms of the decree, Twitter agreed to maintain a comprehensive information security program and allow an independent auditor to assess its programs every other year for the first 10 years after the decree. In May of 2022, just as Musk was purchasing Twitter, the FTC accused the company of violating the original consent decree. According to the FTC complaint, quote, more than 140 million Twitter users provided email addresses or telephone numbers to Twitter based on Twitter's deceptive statements that their information would be used for specific purposes related to account security. In reality, Twitter is accused of using the personal data to target users with advertising. Twitter settled this claim, paid $140 million in fines, and entered into a new consent decree. The terms of the updated consent decree require significantly more stringent monitoring of Twitter's privacy and security claims, which are audited by a third party. Twitter agreed to conduct a privacy assessment of any new products it launches and provide the assessment to the FTC. Rihanna Pfefferkorn, who used to be Twitter's outside counsel, summarized Twitter's obligations like this, quote, if Twitter so much as sneezes, it has to do a privacy review beforehand. Now, we don't know if and to what extent Twitter is violating the FTC consent decree, but we do know that Elon Musk has a history of not particularly caring what government agencies tell him to do. So it's not clear if Twitter's new or old staff are in compliance with the consent decree, but more on that will probably come out eventually. And while all of this is going on, Elon Musk took the stand on Wednesday in the Tornetta shareholder derivative suit that seeks to nullify the 2018 pay package that he received as Tesla's CEO. Under the terms of that deal, Musk's compensation would be divided into 12 batches of stock that would be dispersed as Musk hit predetermined milestones, which he did. As a result, Musk received over $50 billion in Tesla stock. Now, these are difficult cases to win. Generally, courts don't like to review the business decisions of a company. This class action argues that Tesla's board of directors were unduly influenced by Musk and failed to disclose crucial information about the deal to the shareholders who approved the deal. But Musk had to testify in that case, and because he's a legal genius, he implied that he doesn't need to comply with consent decrees. In reference to an SEC consent decree, Musk apparently said, the consent decree was made under duress. An agreement made under duress is not valid as a foundation of law. to which he was asked, "Are you trained as a lawyer?" To which he replied, "I have some familiarity with the legal system. If you're in enough lawsuits, you pick up a few things along the way." The thing is, the FTC doesn't mess around. Many have argued that the SEC doesn't have enough teeth, but the FTC, sometimes in conjunction with the DOJ, can make things hurt. Not only with much bigger fines, but sometimes jail. Just ask Uber's former chief security officer who was recently convicted on federal charges for obstruction against the FTC. Or ask Facebook, who got hit with a $5 billion fine for violating a consent decree related to Cambridge Analytica. And following on the heels of these mass firings, Elon apparently sent another late night email in which he told Twitter that they needed to be more hardcore, that they needed to respond, that they were willing to put in grueling hours or not, and they had until 5 p.m. to respond, or they would be fired with 3 months of severance. Now, given the added debt that Musk added to Twitter, Musk claims that he needs to make things profitable at Twitter, which is why he laid off half of Twitter's staff. And meanwhile, allegedly a lawyer on Twitter's privacy team has apparently overheard Musk's lawyer say that Elon is willing to take on a huge amount of risk in retaliation to this company and users because Elon puts rockets into space and he's not afraid of the FTC. And also, the whistleblowing lawyer also said that Twitter engineers would have to take on the burden of personally certifying that the products they design for Twitter comply with the consent decree. Now, this is obviously hearsay, but it may also be true because there haven't exactly been some vociferous denials of it either. Now, if true, then Twitter is requiring the engineers to take on all the risk, but the consent decree does not allow individual employees to certify Twitter's privacy and security systems. The FTC agreement requires Twitter to submit any significant change in operations to an outside auditor before it can be implemented. And according to the Washington Post, the FTC expects Twitter to submit a new audit in January. The sources said that before Musk even took over, the company was already scrambling to hire enough people to meet that deadline. And the FTC issued a statement, quote, "We are tracking recent developments at Twitter with deep concern. No CEO or company is above the law, and companies must follow our consent decrees. Our revised consent order gives us new tools to ensure compliance, and we are prepared to use them." And that takes us to labor and employment law, because there have been lots of changes for Twitter employees. Musk has fired almost 4,000 Twitter workers, and although Musk has the right to fire employees, this right is not unlimited. Twitter still has to follow federal, state, and local laws. With the Federal Workers Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act, also known as the WARN Act, that generally requires businesses with 100 or more employees to provide 60 days notice before engaging in mass layoffs. WARN defines layoffs as those affecting at least 500 employees during a 30-day period, though employers can provide workers with 60 days of severance pay in lieu of giving notice. And terminated California employees have already filed suit under the WARN Act and comparable state laws. Though Musk has several defenses to their claims. He claims that he offered to pay some employees through January 4th, 2023, which could constitute compliance with the 60-day rule. Some employees were offered severance package, but we don't know enough of the details yet to determine whether the packages complied with the law. And Musk can also say that the employees were fired for cause, which was his defense in a similar lawsuit against Tesla. When ex-Tesla employees sued Musk under the WARN Act, he argued that they were all fired for poor performance and were not layoffs requiring advance notice. And Musk is also taking a hardline approach to remote workers. He sent a 2:34 a.m. email informing the entire workforce that they needed to work in the office for at least 40 hours a week unless they're given approval to work elsewhere. And Musk said that he would personally approve all work from home requests. Quote, "Obviously, if you are physically unable to travel to an office or have a critical personal obligation, then your absence is understandable." Now, Musk has the right to require employees to work in the office if it doesn't violate other laws. He'll have to exercise this discretion without running afoul of the Americans with Disabilities Act and other laws prohibiting discrimination against people with disabilities. He'll also have to follow the FMLA and other laws that protect an employee's right to take time off if they're sick or caring for an ill family member. Now, generally, companies of these size have HR departments to handle these kinds of requests and obligations. But sure, Elon is going to personally make all of these determinations. I'm sure that's going to work out fine. So where does this leave Twitter? Well, maybe bankruptcy. Even Elon has explicitly stated that bankruptcy is on the table, which is not something that you want to hear from a new owner just weeks into their tenure. By most accounts, Elon paid too much for Twitter and saddled it with too much debt. It's possible that Twitter shuts down, but it's more likely that it would just go into bankruptcy and the debtors would take a massive haircut. Or you can threaten bankruptcy to force debtors to take a haircut without formally going into bankruptcy. And there are reports that the banks are currently marketing their debt to others and have received offers of 60 cents on the dollar, though it seems that they want at least 70 cents on the dollar. Others have speculated that Twitter might only be worth $8 billion at this point, meaning that Elon and his fellow financiers would lose 80% of their investments. But I guess it could have been worse. They could have purchased FTX. But now that Twitter has fired all the people responsible for making the site safe, you can never be too careful online. And that's where today's sponsor, NordVPN, can help. Because you know that incognito mode isn't actually incognito, right? And NordVPN is more than just a VPN. It comes with a whole suite of threat protection tools. For example, if you follow some of your favorite creators on social media, you might have heard the stories of channels getting hacked. Basically, a creator loses access after a successful attack or a leaked password. And in fact, Alex's Corner, one of our Nebula friends, recently got their YouTube channel stolen and turned into a repository for cryptocurrency scam videos. But NordVPN's threat protection includes specific features to warn you about phishing links, as well as features like a blocker for malicious ads and dark web monitoring to see if your passwords have been leaked. And of course, NordVPN is a great VPN. With Nord, you can surf the web anonymously and your location stays private. It allows me to set my location all over the world, which lets me access different versions of my favorite websites. And when I'm out of the country and try to connect to Gmail or a bunch of other things that I'm logged into, all those accounts usually would freak out and tell me that I'm being hacked. So now I just reroute my connection to the US and my Gmail and everything is perfectly happy. So if you'd like to give NordVPN a try, click on the link that's on screen right now or in the description to get a 2-year plan with a huge discount plus 4 additional months free. And it's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. So click on the link below to get a 2-year plan with 4 additional months for free with a risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee as well. And after that, click on this box over here for more LegalEagle, or I'll see you in court.